Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship your holy name.
Good morning to one and all present here. Today, we have joined here for the presentation of project-based learning. Project-based learning helps students develop skills for living in a knowledge-based, highly technological society. With this combination of skills, students become directors and managers of their learning process, guided by their teachers. I'm extremely honored and feel privileged to welcome everyone to this program. Distinguished guests, respected executive principal, teachers, parents, and all my dear fellow students. Today, we have Mrs. Sashikala Raj, Secretary, as a guest of honor. It is an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of Garden Public School. Thank you, ma'am, for taking out time from your busy schedule to be with us today. Once again, I welcome you to the function. It is an honor for me to welcome our DMO's director, Mrs. Shija, to this event. Welcome, ma'am. I welcome our versatile and talented executive principal, Mr. Rajneesh Avi. Welcome, sir. I also welcome our principal, Mrs. Shriju Thomas, who is here to support us throughout the function. Welcome, ma'am. A warm welcome to all our loving teachers who are always there to help us. Welcome, teachers. Next, I welcome all dear parents who have joined us to show their support. Last but not least, I welcome all my dear fellow students. Once again, I welcome you all to this function. Thank you.
Over to the grade 10 for the presentation.
A warm welcome to one and all gathered here. It would be my pleasure to introduce what project-based learning is. Project-based learning is where students can have in-depth learning on specific topics by doing a research and understanding it as a part of the effective learning process. Neuroplasticity being the topic for the grade 10 students, we shall now be showcasing what we have found and learned. Contributing each child's effort is the outcome demonstrated here. So let's start our session by knowing what is neuroplasticity.
Good morning to all. So now I would be taking the topic neuroplasticity. So first, what is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is also known as brain plasticity or neural plasticity. So this is the ability of our brain to gain new neural cells and also new neural network as we go on learning things or go on learning new things in our life. So this is known as neuroplasticity. That the development of new neural networks in our brain is known as neuroplasticity. So next we are going to look on to the origin and history of neuroplasticity. So the term neuroplasticity was said by Polish neuroscientist Jerzy Konorski in 1948. He observed the structure, he observed our brain's neural structure. He observed that our brain is made up of neural cells and also our brain is capable for continuous functional changes. But the word neuroplasticity wasn't widely used until the year 1960. So this is the photo of Jerzy Konorski who found the word neuroplasticity. So next we are going to look the developments of neuroplasticity, how we can develop our neuroplasticity. So we can develop our neuroplasticity by learning new skills, habits, and new ways of thinking. Like for example, we should do the things which we haven't done in our life before, or we should do the skills, or we should think in such a manner which we haven't done in our life before. So the formation of new neural networks can come in our brain, and the neuroplasticity may develop in our brain. So this is how we can develop our neuroplasticity. So next we are going to look onto a small brain yoga. This yoga is beneficial for our brain's concentration skill, and also it reduces our brain stress. And also the best time for doing this yoga is in the morning, as our brain will be fresh that time. Hope you guys understood the topic about neuroplasticity. Now over to Arpita for an expert talk.
The students of grade 10 had an interactive session with Mr. Saiju Arvind, the founder and CEO of EduBrisk, for an interview based on our topic neuroplasticity. So let's sit back and watch. So could you give us a brief idea on what exactly neuroplasticity is before we move into the further course?
Right. Simple answer is that our brain is not hardwired like it is, wiring in the building. The wiring in our building, they put tubes, they pass the wire through it, and it goes to the light fittings, air conditioner, fan, your microwave, and these points are fixed, and the wires are hardwired. In the brain, if you take a brain scan, it looks like that wiring is hardwired, but the beauty is the wiring can change. You can make the wiring different. So neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to rewire. So that's the simplest answer to that.
What are a few benefits of neuroplasty? Because we won't like there should be some benefit, right? So because that is the reason why we'll practice it. Otherwise, there's no reason to practice it if it didn't have any benefit. So could you give us a few benefits of
So
neuroplasty?
I've already covered a few of them. I already told them Alzheimer's, dementia, a lot of brain diseases are kept away. The other thing, the benefit which I specifically told about the students is that if you are facing a difficulty in grasping something or retaining something or reproducing something in the same manner, or a difficulty in personalizing it in your own way, you can probably understand that I need to rewire my brain. So which means instead of trying to learn it by grinding harder, you should try approaching it through different methods which can make the neuroplastic changes.
So you were using the term rewire a lot, I guess, when you were saying. So what does that term actually mean? Does it have any significant? Like it is very common in terms of neuroplasticity. So is it any?
I feel that when I say rewire, I think I mean an unlearning and learning it in a new process-oriented way.
So could you give us a few examples of neuroplasticity? It could be real life examples.
Sorry.
A few examples of neuroplasticity. Could be real life examples or anything like that.
Suppose I stop here and I asked any of you to summarize this. I'm sure I spoke maybe for 20 minutes. Somebody may be able to speak for 30 seconds. Somebody may be able to speak 1 minute. Somebody able to speak may speak for 2 minutes. That's right. Or 3 minutes. But I don't think anybody among you will talk. You may talk whatever you want to talk, but if you have to summarize in letter and spirit what I said, you go to EduPress celebratingknowledge.com, there is a picture of me speaking to that 1,200 people. Packed Kalabharati auditorium in Calcutta. At the end of it, I asked, it was a 2.5 hour session lecture. At the end of it, I asked one of the 12th standard students, I was asking questions. So one girl was answering. I asked her to come to the stage and summarize my talk. Okay. She came to the stage and she spoke for around 15 minutes. Precise. Everything was so much in line with what we spoke. Language was, the key words were used, and the flow was proper, and we were shocked. So this is an ability.
I'd like to ask, does age have a role in neuroplasticity? Does being younger have an advantage, or
Thank God. Yeah,
does
good,
age have anything to relate?
very good question. But the best part about it is we are so lucky or very happy news that there is no age limitation to it at all.
Does the IQ of a person like increase if for someone who practices neuroplasticity? Will that person's IQ be higher than a person who is not has never practiced neuroplasticity?
See, IQ is a test for general intelligence, GI. So when we say like that, we'll have to talk about how IQ is measured, what are the tests, and so many other parameters. Let us take only one thing, that uh, up, through by favorably using the neuroplastic nature of the brain is neuroplastic. If you use that favorably, we can actually develop learning in multiple areas. So that's all I can say.
Can neuroplasticity be negative? Does it have any negative effects on anybody? Or
Yeah, so there's a saying, no, or if you have to fill in, and I'll say the one part of the saying, you'll have to fill up and tell the last part. Practice makes us
perfect.
that's not true. Practice makes things permanent. If they are imperfect, practice makes it permanently imperfect. So practice doesn't make us perfect. Practice makes it permanent.
How long can it take for one to develop fully, like practice neuroplasty? Does it
So
depend on?
neuroplasticity, I want to, you can ask the question again, but I want to clarify to all of those who are saying, neuroplasticity is a feature of the brain. That is, neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain, inherent ability of the brain to rewire and develop new wiring and things like that. So normally neuroplastic changes, a lot of studies have done. So I don't want to fix a number, but I heard that it is normally 3 weeks, 4 weeks time.
Now over to Anusha to know more about the relationship between neuroplasticity and neurogenesis.
So I'll be talking about ways to relationship between neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. So neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to change or reorganize its connection in response to learning or having a new experience. It is also known as brain plasticity, whereas neurogenesis is the process by which new neurons are formed. So this neuroplasticity alters the brain in response to having a new stress, and neurogenesis prepares the brain to face this new stress. So the relationship between both are neuroplasticity and neurogenesis are responses that happen to the brain, and an increase in number of neurons, which is done by the process of neurogenesis, helps in the ability of the brain to make new connections, and this will improve your memory and also the ability to learn. Neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that are released by neurons. It is used to communicate between the neurons. And some of the examples are dopamine, serotonin, and adrenaline. And I would be talking about dopamine. This is a dopamine model that I made. Dopamine is linked to having pleasurable sensation, and it also is a cause for addictions. And having the amount of dopamine higher than usual results in being more aggressive and competitive. The chemical formula is C8H11 and O2. The red ones are carbon molecules, the white ones are hydrogen molecules, and the blue ones are oxygen molecules. So when you have lower amounts of dopamine, it lays alongside the symptoms of ADHD. This dopamine is released from hypothalamus of our brain, which is situated above the pituitary gland. And now over to John to know more ways to stimulate neuroplasticity.
Thank you, Anusha. Now let's look through the different ways by which we can stimulate neuroplasticity. So the general way by which we can stimulate neuroplasticity is to commit yourself in engaging in exercises as frequently as you can. Because when your brain is exposed to a new environment in which it needs to work for a long time, then slowly a neuroplastic change will be developed in your brain. What I'm trying to say is that slowly your brain's efficiency speed will increase. It just depends on the environment you are exposed to. And the exercises I talked about, it can be in the form of yoga, aerobics, hand exercises, or even number games. Now let me show you two interesting games which increase our brain efficiency. So the first game I would like to introduce is called the Shult game. The Shult game contains 25 boxes, and in these each 25 boxes, there will be numbers from 1 to 25, and they will be randomly scattered. As you can see, this is how a Shult table looks like, and there are numbers from 1 to 25. So the main objective of this game, or to win this game, what you have to do is you have to locate number 1, and then locate number 2, then locate number 3, and like that reach till 25. So I'll give you 30 seconds. So the time starts now. I encourage everyone to participate here. Once again, you have to go read number 1, then locate number 2, like that read it in your mind, and then reach till 25. So the time's up. Some of you might have easily reached 25, but some of you might be lagging behind. And some of you might even think that a certain number is not present in the table. The reason is that you lack information perception. So let's know more about information perception by going to the benefits of the Shult game. So the first benefit of the Shult game is that it increases the information perception and the processing speed of our brain. Because in the Shult game, as you can see, there are 1 to 25 numbers. There are 25 numbers, and each 25 numbers is a piece of information. So your brain is in a situation, it is exposed to a situation in which it needs to handle a lot of information. So if you keep playing this game, or if you keep practicing this game, slowly your brain will develop your information perception. That means that you can easily perceive or easily understand, analyze information in just few seconds of time. And if you get more information, it just means that your processing speed of your brain will increase. Because if you get more information, your brain can do more work. So if the information perception is high, then the processing speed of your brain will also become high. And second benefit is that it increases something, a unique skill called the peripheral vision. The peripheral vision is also known as indirect line of vision. For example, if I'm focusing onto the number 1, even though my focus is at number 1, I'll be able to see the numbers that are around number 1. For example, the numbers that are around number 1 are 24, 25, 15, 3, 19, like that. So even though my focus is at number 1, it may I'll be able to see the numbers that are around it. Sometimes it may be unclear, but still I will be able to see the numbers that are around it. So this skill is called peripheral vision. And when you frequently practice this game, the peripheral vision will be developed inside you. So this is the benefits of the Shult game. Now let's go to the second game, that is multicolored text game. So the multicolored text game contains a series of text, and in these each text will be written in different colors. For example, this is, if I'm reading out the first text here, that is, it is written yellow, but the color is blue. And the second text, it is written black, but the color is green. I will give you 30 seconds. What you have to do is that you have to read through the font color. I repeat, if I'm reading out the first line, it should be blue, green, black, and then red. Like that, I have to read and reach till the last word. So I'll give you 30 seconds. I encourage everyone to participate in this game because you can see if your brain is fast or not. So I hope you could nail this game, but for some, this game might be very difficult because in this case, your brain is in a situation in which it needs to distinguish between two things. Now let's go to the benefits of this multicolored text game. So the first benefit is that it increases your concentration and attention, because in this game, to win this game, you need to have a huge amount of concentration and attention to a subject or towards an information. And the second benefit is that it helps you in distinguishing between two things and helps you in avoiding distractions. Because I told you that brain is in a situation in which it needs to distinguish between two things. Now, what are these two things? If you guess that it is the text and the font color, then you're right. Because if I'm reading out the first word, what my brain will see is that my brain will notice that the text is yellow and the color is blue. And then it should distinguish between these two information and it should focus onto one. So here the distraction is the text. Because I don't need the yellow part, so my brain will remove the yellow part and it will focus onto the color. It will focus onto the color. So it will help me in avoiding distractions. So if you keep playing this game, your brain's ability of avoiding distractions will increase. Thereby, it will increase your work efficiency. Because while we are doing any work or while we are attending any lectures and all, there will be background noises, or there will be your family's noises, mother's noises and all. So at that time, it will be hard for you to concentrate on what you're doing. But if you're able to distinguish between the distractions and your work, then you will be able to easily increase your work efficiency. So these are the benefits of the multicolored text game. Now let me answer one of the most frequently question asked about neuroplasticity. That is, does video games develop neuroplasticity? Some of you might be fond of video games and you might be waiting for the answer. Well, the answer is yes. Researchers have showed that children and teenagers who play video games have a better shot at neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. So by now you may be knowing what is neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is the formation of new neurons in your brain, and neuroplasticity is the changes that are developed in your brain. And it has also been proved that children or teenagers who play shooter games or action games develop a skill called probabilistic inference. The probabilistic inference, it is the capability of our, or the ability of our brain to analyze the stored information inside us to make the right decision. Because while playing games, we will be exposed to many situations in which we need to look to the information and then we have to choose one and act according to that. So if you are playing shooter games, then the probabilistic inference will be developed inside your brain. So these are the merits of the playing video games. But I would also like to remind you about the demerits that gamers or students face while playing video games. So the first demerit is that dopamine addiction. So Anusha has told what is dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and neurotransmitters are the chemicals that are released by neurons so that they can communicate with each other. So while we are playing games, we know that games are exciting, so we'll be happy. So there will be a dopamine addiction, constant dopamine release by your brain, because Anusha has told that dopamine will only be released in pleasurable situations. So at that time, your brain will be happy, your brain will be excited, so dopamine release will be high. And then what happens is that if you keep your phone aside and go to do your normal work, you will feel an addiction. You will feel an temptation to play a game. The reason is that your brain will be used to that new dopamine supply and it will want to play again, because while playing video games, you'll be happy. So your brain wants that because high dopamine level is increased. So that's the reason that video games are addictive. So what will happen is that if you're addicted to video games, you'll play it again and again. Then your academic progress will go down. It will just backfire at you, and it will also develop something called social disconnection. So let's get to know more about social disconnection. Social disconnection is also another demerit of video games. It means that we are feeling disconnected with the society, because in a research in Iran has proved that students or teenagers who are addicted to video games lack social skills. So when a student is addicted to video games, he will always play it again and again when he gets any free time, or sometimes when he's going to study also, he will feel a temptation and then play the video game. So at that time, what will happen is that your mingling skills will be less, because instead of going and playing outdoor games or mingling with your friends or cracking jokes or sharing your feelings and all, instead of doing that, we just play video games, because we know that while we are spending time with our friends, we feel happy, but we get the same happiness or we get the same dopamine level while playing video games too. So we'll feel that then what is the use of mingling with friends? I feel the same happiness while playing video games. So that's when you're addicted to video games, we'll not feel to go outside or mingle with anybody. So we'll not be mingled with the society. Then what will happen is that our social skills, the communication skills with each other, it will decrease, which will be very useful. So these are the demerits of the video games. And I hope you came through across two new games, the short game and the multicolor text game. And you also came to know about the benefits of these two games. Now I hand over my topic to Anaga, who will be talking about how neuroplasticity helps in learning and development. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So I'll be talking on the topic on how does neuroplasticity support learning and development. Before moving on to the connection between neuroplasticity and learning, we must know what learning is. Learning is a very familiar word to all of us, so we must know what learning is. Learning is the ability to acquire knowledge and skills through instructions or experience. When our teacher gives us instructions on a subject, we acquire knowledge through it, or we acquire knowledge or skills through our experiences in our life. So now, what is the connection between neuroplasticity and learning? Capacity of brain to change according to learning is known as plasticity. That means in our smaller grades, we have learned what is nutrition. But as we come to higher grades, we come to know more about nutrition. So brain is changing according to it. When we learn something new, our brain is changing according to it because of the plasticity present in our brain. So that is why neuroplasticity plays a very important role in our learning process. But a question which will arise in your mind is, how does brain change with learning? What we must do for it? And the answer is very simple. It is through practice. When we do a repeated practice on an activity, or when we access a memory, it shapes a neural network. Neural networks are the group of neurons that fire together, creating electrochemical pathways. When we practice anything, like on first time when we are seeing something, our brain will just connect the cells. They'll collect the cell and they'll just connect it. Then it is our responsibility through practice or research that we shape it and we make that connected cell pathway strong. But think, we have stopped practicing, or we are not doing any kind of practicing to it. Teacher has taught us something, but we are not practicing, then what happens? It really affects us badly. When we stop practicing something, the brain will eliminate, or a better word is prune the connected cell that form the pathway.
because the brain felt, okay, this person is not doing any kind of prepping to the connected cell, then why they are simply keeping it? They'll think that it is like a waste. So what happens is that the brain will eliminate. That is why your teachers or the parents ask you to practice or recall the information which is taught by a teacher, because it strengthens the connected cell. It can happen to extracurricular activities like dance, music, drawing, anything like that. But I'm giving the example of studying or learning related examples because it will be something very connective. We have sometimes experienced it. Over time, connections become thick, hardy roadmap that link various parts of the brain. Because we practice a lot, we do a lot of prepping to it, and now brain find it difficult to eliminate it. That is why we hear that practice makes permanent. The more time the network is stimulated, the more efficient it becomes. But this practice makes permanent can affect in a good way and a bad way. Good way means that when we learn something very new, or when we do a lot of practicing, we can do that. For example, dance, if you do a lot of practicing on it, you can do the performance in your stage gracefully. But it can affect you badly. How? That means when you like every day you play game twice or thrice a day, then the brain will make it as a habit, and it will feel that it will not sleep, or the person will not sleep unless he plays a game twice or thrice a day. And the person will, it will happen as a habit to him. And what happens is that the person will feel addicted to the game. And you know that what will happen if you're addicted to the game. John has said the demerits of it and also merits of playing the game. That is why practice makes permanent happen. It can affect in a good way and also in a bad way. Neuroplasticity exercises. So this is a video which I made it through an animation app, that is Animaker. And through this video, I'm showing some of the neuroplasticity exercise where you will enhance neuroplasticity so that it works efficiently. So let us come back and check it.
Neuroplasticity exercises. Expand your vocabulary. Try to learn one new word every day. According to experts, this simple act will spark a multitude of new neural pathways, both visual and auditory. Give it a few months and it will make you unstoppable at Scrabble too. Take naps. Obviously, a good night's sleep of between 7 and 9 hours will always set you up for a better brain day. But a short afternoon nap of around 20 minutes will elevate your neuroplasticity potential even further. A short nap encourages the growth of dendritic spines, which act as crucial connectors between the neurons in your brain. Be mindful as a team. One of the best things you can do to promote neuroplasticity in a workforce is to incorporate regular group meditation. There are multiple online options available to get you started like this. Not only does it help with the positive brain rewiring process, it also results in team members reacting to problems with an increased sense of calm, passion, and awareness. Neuroplasticity at its finest. Feed your brain. Your brain makes up only a tiny proportion of your total body weight, but it uses up a quarter of everything you eat. If you want enhanced neural pathways, you will need an enhanced diet. Vitamin D and magnesium are top priorities if you want to promote neuroplasticity.
So I hope you understood that what all exercises we must do to enhance neuroplasticity. Then two things which I wanted to share, but I couldn't show through the video, was one of using a wrong hand. Like if you're a right-handed person, try to do something with the left hand also. For example, brushing your teeth, writing with left hand. Like for example, in a notebook, just try in a rough book, just try writing with the left hand. If you're a left-handed person, do it vice versa. Then other thing which I wanted to share was about memory techniques. So we find difficult in remembering some topics, or we find difficult in remembering some kind of portion. So we guardians are using an education platform, that is EduBrisk, where this memory techniques is something very common to us. In some of the topics and all, you can see this memory techniques, and these memory techniques will help you in memorizing the difficult portions you have. And also you have another option that is known as memory chime, where some in portions, every portion in every section, you will be having like options called memory chime, where you can put this chime, and the EduBrisk will remind you in a ratio that is 1:1:1:3:1. That is 1 day, then 1 week, then 1 month, then 3 months, like that. So what happens is that when we open the EduBrisk account, we'll get this reminder and we open it, and we'll read, and we'll read the portion which the EduBrisk has reminded us. And what happens is that we'll read it, and we'll start learning it, and that difficult portion will be like very easy to us to understand. So now I'll be showing some brain exercises also, because that brain exercises will help you in coordination, control, then removing decreasing of distractions, because maybe you're learning, you are attending online class. Since you are at home, many other things happen. If you are at school, what happens? If you're studying only, we are in the classroom, the teacher teaches, no distractions are there. But since we are at home, obviously we'll face so much distractions, like our father will be seeing TV, our mother will be cooking food, or talking, like many distractions can happen. So when we do some kind of brain exercises or eye exercises, these distractions will decrease. So now I'll be showing 3 brain exercises, and I request all of them in the meeting to please do it with me, and it is going to be really beneficial for all of you. So please everyone do it with me. I'll be instructing. So the first exercise would be thumb finger. I hope you can see thumb finger, index finger, like this, then switch. So maybe these exercises will not get tricky. What you must do is do it with a speed, a slow, then medium, then fast, like that, like this. Then increase the speed. Okay, that is one exercise. Other exercise would be like this. I hope you can see this. And if you're able to do this, switch your fingers. Switch your fingers means these 2 fingers. Okay? These 2 fingers. Like this. If you're able to do that also, again switch your fingers. Like this. These 2 fingers. If you're able to do that also, switch your fingers. Last 2 fingers. Like this. Okay. Then one very, I hope these 2 exercises were a little tough. So one easy exercise, okay, which you will get quickly would be stone pepper. This is stone pepper. Again, just thing like that, and then switch. Okay, this would be easy. Just yeah. So thank you, and I hope that how neuroplasticity plays a very important role in learning, and I hope you understood it. So I'll be handing over to Albert to know the differences between neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. Over to you, Albert.
Thank you, Anaga. So earlier we discussed about the relationship between neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. So now let's see what are the differences between them. So before going to the topic, let's see what is neurogenesis. So neurogenesis means the new neurons which are formed in our brain is called neurogenesis. And this neurogenesis are very important at embryo developing stage. And now let's see what are the difference between neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. So as you see in this table, we already discussed that neurogenesis means the formation of new neurons in the brain. And neuroplasticity means the brain, the ability of recognizing or the new neural connections is called neuroplasticity. In neurogenesis, there are mainly two places. They are neural stem and progenitor cells. So from these two places, these new neurons are formed. In neuroplasticity, it looks mostly on the regrowth or the repair of neuron tissues. In neurogenesis, it will be enhancing on the capacity of an adult brain. But in neuroplasticity, it is a fundamental property of a brain and a multifaceted area. Now let's see what are the diseases which are caused by this. So some of the diseases are like brain tumor, stroke, epilepsy, and neurodegenerative diseases. And some of the neurodegenerative diseases are like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, Huntington disease, etc. are some of the neurodegenerative diseases. So now let's see how can we prevent like these diseases or for developing our brain. First thing is to learn new languages. Means there are some people who's very interested to learn new languages and they'll be ready to learn. So through that, they can increase their attention, memory, motor skills, etc. are some of the benefits of learning new languages. Next one is traveling. So traveling keeps a person happy. So when you are traveling, our brain will be fresh. So we are able to learn new things which are around us. Next one is exercise. So Anaga and Jacob showed some brain exercise and yoga exercise, which will be helping us to keep our brain fit and develop too. And next one is playing video games. So I don't suggest for playing every video games. There are few video games which helping our brain for developing. And there are some benefits from this. So some of the benefits are like increasing of peripheral vision, probabilistic inference, reaction time, etc. are some of the benefits. And there are also some of the demerits and or the disadvantages of video games. First one is poor mental health. So there will be diseases like insomnia and other disorders which will be causing our brain through these video games. And next one is poor academics. When you are playing video games full time, we are not concentrating on studies. So we'll be getting less marks and we'll not be able to study much. And next one is escapism and getting stuck in life. For this, we can take one example. Think that you had played a game in a day for 10 hours. So if you had any problem in front of you, you are not able to face that problem or you are not able to solve that problem. So at that time, you will be stuck and you are not able to do anything. So these are the demerits of the video games. And now we discuss about some video games. So let's play a small game that find the odd one out. So I will show one picture on this. You should find the odd one out within 30 seconds. Your time starts now. I encourage every participants to play this game. Time's up. I hope everyone find the answer. The answer is the red circled one. So the benefits of these games are like we can increase the coordination, increase the peripheral vision and coordination between brain and eyes. Recently, there were some studies were gone on neuroplasticity. So Joy, what are the recent studies of neuroplasticity?
Thank you, Albert. So now I'm going to talk about the recent studies on neuroplasticity. Introduction. Till 1960s, scientists believed that the brain stopped growing after the childhood. But later it was understood that the brain continuously grows throughout the lifetime. In recent research and studies, neuroplasticity provides that it is possible to change the functional pattern of thinking and behaving to develop a new mindset, new memory, new skills, and even new abilities. Brain plasticity or neuroplasticity. The human brain is composed of approximately 86 billion neurons. In earlier, researchers believed that the neurogenesis or the creation of new neurons stop shortly after birth. But today it's understood that the brain possesses a remarkable capacity of recognizing pathways, creating new connections, and in cases even creating new neurons. So mainly there are two types of neuroplasticity. The structural plasticity, that is the brain's ability to actually change the physical structure as a result of learning. The next one is the functional plasticity. That is the brain's ability to change its functions due to some damages occurred to the brain. Now let us talk about the modern theories happening in neuroplasticity. As I told, till 1960s, scientists believed that the brain stopped growing after childhood. But later, they conducted studies on old adults who were having massive strokes, were able to regain their function, demonstrating that the brains are more malleable than believed before. The modern researchers have also found evidences that the brain is able to rewire itself even after falling to certain damages. It has also demonstrated that the brain continuously creates new neuronal pathways and altered existing ones to adopt new experiences, to learn new information, and to create new memories. It is also demonstrated that brains are not limited to mental abilities. It is they are born with, and the damaged brain also have the capacity to regain and to make a remarkable change. Now let us see some places where the neuroplasticity had gained more development. The first one is the homologous area of adoption. That is, it occurs in early critical periods of development. If a particular brain module becomes damaged in early life, it is possible to change its function to another particular area by normal operations. This function is often shifted to a module in matching or a homologous area of opposite brain hemisphere. But however, it also has some downsides. It is a type of neuroplasticity that may come in cost of functions that are normally stored in the module, but now it have to function for another part. The next one is the compensatory masquerade. It is a second type of neuroplasticity. It can be simply described where a brain is finding a particular way to solve a particular problem. For example, if a person is traveling from one place to another, if he knew the place already, he would be knowing the paths by heart. But if he is traveling through a new place which he don't know before, he would be taking the help of some landmarks or some rivers or something that is more catchy to the eyes. Third one, cross-modal reassignment. The classic example for a cross-modal reassignment is that a person who is blind from birth will have a vision called V1 vision, which would help in identifying objects by touching it. But a person who is blind at the time of his lifespan won't have this V1 vision and won't be able to identify things by touching it. Now let us discuss some ways in which we can rewire neuroplasticity. First one, exercise. Regular exercise can increase the immune system in elders without having any side effects. People who are above 80 years are able to function individually if they are having a regular exercise. Diet and inflammation. The total intake of food, fluid, frequency of intake, and content consumed all factors into the molecular events of energy metabolism and neuroplasticity. The optical combination of nutrients can be a practical way of enhancing the performance while increasing the health span. Love, prescription, and reduce stress. Perhaps love is one of the most valuable intentional emotions that humans experience and can drive the brain plasticity in a positive way. The result of continued production of neuroplastic genes through a 50% increase in lifespan to human equivalent to 90 years. A person who is having a rich social network or a family connection with friends would have a better and stressless life ahead. Sleep. A study of 6,050 adults of aging above 65 years have proved that people who are having a better sleep are able to function individually and more enthusiastically. So I hope I believe everyone had found our work interesting and had learned something new about neuroplasticity. I thank each and everyone for being a part of our session. Thank you.
Thank you, grade 10. A warm and graceful morning to all the dignitaries, teachers, parents, and dear friends. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contributions of those who worked really hard to make this project-based learning happen. I, Vibha S. Govind, on behalf of Guardian Public School, first of all, extend my most sincere thanks to the Almighty God for making today's event a resounding success. With His blessings and grace, we are able to make this event a remarkable one. On behalf of my school, I extend a hearty vote of thanks to our guest of honor, Mrs. Shashikala Raj, Secretary, who spared her time from the busiest schedule to grace the occasion. Thank you to all the dignitaries and guardian family. Sincere gratitude to all the parents and well-wishers for your support and encouragement. Finally, I would like to thank all my dear friends. Your days of hard work was evident in your performance. Last but not least, a big thank you to each one of you who made this project-based learning a memorable one for all of us. Thank you.